Introduction. Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. These words remind us that joy is never handed to us by chance. It is a decision carved out of the choices we make every single day. Two people can walk through the same storm. One crumbles under the weight of fear, while the other walks with a smile, refusing to let the storm steal their peace. The difference is not the storm, but the decision. Every morning, life asks the same question. Will you give in to negativity? Or will you rise and say, "Today, I choose happiness"? Happiness is not about perfect circumstances. It is about training your mind and your heart to create light even when darkness surrounds you. This book will guide you to unlock that power and push yourself toward joy every single day. Chapter 1. Happiness begins in the mind. Every meaningful change in life always begins in the mind, and happiness is no exception. The human mind is like a fertile field where seeds are planted every single day. Those seeds come in the form of thoughts, beliefs, and perspectives. Just like a farmer cannot expect good fruit if he allows weeds to grow wild in his soil, you cannot expect peace and happiness if your mind is constantly filled with fear, anger, jealousy, or doubt. When your mental soil is polluted with negative thoughts, the emotions that grow from it will naturally be heavy and draining: sadness, worry, frustration, and resentment. On the other hand, if you intentionally nurture your mind with positive seeds such as gratitude, optimism, patience, and hope, then what grows in your heart will be joy, contentment, and inner peace. The condition of your mind determines the condition of your life. This is why your inner dialogue is so important, even more than many people realize. The way you speak to yourself throughout the day silently shapes how you feel about everything. Imagine two people facing the same situation. One tells themselves, "This is too hard, I'll never succeed," while the other says, "This is a challenge, but I will grow through it." Their outer circumstances are the same, but their inner world creates a completely different experience. The first person feels defeated before even trying, while the second finds strength and motivation. This shows how your words to yourself either build you up or tear you down. If your self-talk is full of comparison, criticism, and focus on what you lack, then even blessings will feel meaningless. But if your self-talk is rooted in encouragement, faith, and recognition of small progress, happiness will begin to rise naturally within you. Think about how often we trap ourselves in unnecessary suffering by entertaining negative thoughts. We replay mistakes from the past, we exaggerate failures, and we imagine the worst outcomes for the future. These thought patterns become heavy chains that keep us from enjoying the present moment. The good news is that the mind can be trained just like a muscle. If you start replacing negative thoughts with positive ones, even if it feels unnatural at first, over time your mind becomes stronger and more disciplined. Instead of allowing one bad moment to ruin an entire day, you learn to pause, breathe, and shift your perspective. Instead of drowning in self-doubt, you remind yourself of your worth and of the progress you have already made. This mental discipline transforms not only your happiness, but also your entire way of living. It is important to understand that happiness in the mind does not mean ignoring reality or pretending problems do not exist. It means approaching life with a different mindset. You cannot always control what happens around you. Unexpected challenges, hurtful words from others, disappointments or failures are all part of being human. But you can control how you choose to interpret those events. For example, when something goes wrong, you can either say, "This is the end of everything," or you can say, "This is a lesson, and I will use it to grow stronger." The first response traps you in pain, while the second empowers you to keep moving forward. Happiness begins the moment you realize that you are not a prisoner of your circumstances, but the master of how you respond to them. When you begin to see your mind as the root of happiness, you take back the power that many people unknowingly give away. Happiness is not waiting for you in money, success, or approval from others. It begins with the way you think. The choice is always yours, to let your thoughts control you or to control your thoughts. When you take charge of your inner world, you create the conditions for joy to grow, no matter what is happening outside of you. Chapter 2. Gratitude is the shortcut to joy. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools you can ever practice if you want to experience happiness every single day. It is often said that gratitude turns what we have into enough. And this is true because gratitude shifts the way we see life. Two people can live under the same roof, face the same circumstances, and yet one will feel miserable while the other feels blessed. The difference does not lie in the situation, it lies in their perspective. Gratitude is the lens through which you look at life, and the clearer that lens becomes, the more beauty you will see, even in ordinary moments. When you practice gratitude, you begin to notice the small gifts that often go ignored. The ability to breathe freely, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the smile of a loved one, the food on your table, or even the strength you found to survive difficult times. All of these are treasures that many people overlook. When you focus on what you have instead of what you lack, you begin to feel a natural sense of joy rising in your heart. Gratitude does not erase problems, but it balances your vision so that you are not blinded by what is missing. Instead, you begin to see what is already present, and this realization instantly lightens the burden of life. The practice of gratitude also rewires the brain. Studies have shown that people who regularly express gratitude actually develop new neural pathways that make them more likely to notice positive experiences. In other words, gratitude trains your brain to scan the world for blessings instead of constantly searching for reasons to complain. Over time, this habit changes your emotional state. You feel calmer, more content, and less focused on envy or comparison. When others are restless and chasing happiness in external things, you learn to create it internally through thankfulness. One of the simplest ways to build gratitude is to create daily rituals. Begin your mornings by listing 3 things you are thankful for before you even leave your bed. End your nights by reflecting on one moment during the day that made you smile or gave you peace. Write them down in a journal or simply whisper them to yourself. These small acts may seem insignificant, but over time, they train your mind to pay attention to the good. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes, until gratitude becomes a constant rhythm in your life. Gratitude also transforms relationships. When you start appreciating the people around you, acknowledging their efforts, expressing thanks for their presence, you strengthen the bonds of love and trust. People feel valued when they are appreciated, and in return, they naturally bring more kindness and warmth into your life. This creates a cycle of positivity where gratitude generates happiness not only within you, but also within those around you. In contrast, when gratitude is absent, people often feel taken for granted, and even good relationships begin to weaken. Choosing to be thankful is therefore not just an act of personal happiness, it is a gift you give to others as well. It is important to remember that gratitude is most powerful in difficult times. It is easy to be thankful when everything is going well, but true gratitude shines when life feels heavy. In those moments, gratitude becomes a source of strength. By choosing to focus on even the smallest blessings, you remind yourself that life still holds goodness, even in the midst of hardship. This perspective keeps your spirit alive and helps you endure storms with resilience. Gratitude in hardship does not mean you ignore pain. It means you refuse to let pain overshadow the beauty that still exists. Ultimately, gratitude is the shortest path to happiness because it does not require you to change your circumstances. It only requires you to change your focus. Instead of waiting for life to be perfect, you learn to see perfection in the present moment. Instead of chasing joy in the future, you discover joy in the now. The heart that is filled with gratitude is never truly empty because it sees every breath, every step, and every day as a blessing. And when you live in this state of thankfulness, happiness is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you naturally carry wherever you go. Chapter 3. Stop waiting for happiness. Create it. One of the most common traps people fall into is believing that happiness will arrive only after certain conditions are met. They tell themselves, "I'll be happy when I get a better job, when I make more money, when I finally find the right partner, when I lose weight, or when life finally becomes easier." This mindset places happiness far into the future, always just out of reach. And the tragedy is that life slips away while waiting for that perfect moment that may never come. The truth is that happiness is not something you wait for, it is something you create. If you postpone happiness until every part of your life looks exactly the way you want, you may spend your entire life waiting and never truly live. Think about this. Every single day holds opportunities to experience happiness. But many people miss them because they are too focused on what they don't yet have. They overlook the joy of a warm meal, the laughter of a friend, or the peace of a quiet morning, because their eyes are fixed on some imagined future that will supposedly bring happiness. But the reality is that even when they reach those future goals, they often discover that happiness still feels distant, and they set a new condition for it. "I'll be happy when I achieve the next thing." This endless cycle creates a life of chasing, not living. Creating happiness in the present moment requires a shift in perspective. Instead of waiting for the perfect life, you learn to build joy from the life you already have. This means slowing down to notice simple pleasures, celebrating small wins instead of waiting for big milestones, and giving yourself permission to feel joy without guilt. For example, taking a walk in the park, enjoying your favorite tea, listening to music, or even pausing to watch the sunset. These are not trivial things. They are powerful reminders that life already offers beauty if we choose to see it. Happiness grows in these small, intentional choices to live fully in the present. Another important truth is that happiness is not found in circumstances, but in the way you interpret them. Two people can face the same challenge, perhaps losing a job or going through failure, and one person will see only despair while the other sees a chance to grow, learn, and start again. The external situation is the same, but their internal choice is different. This is why creating happiness is about mindset more than it is about external achievements. Your happiness does not depend on waiting for life to become easier. It depends on choosing how you see life as it is now. It is also essential to understand that creating happiness is an act of responsibility. Waiting for happiness is passive. You sit back, hoping life will deliver joy to your doorstep. But creating happiness is active. You take ownership of your well-being, you build habits that nurture peace, and you protect your heart from unnecessary negativity. This shift from waiting to creating empowers you, because it reminds you that you are not powerless in your pursuit of joy. You do not need to rely on the approval of others or on the unpredictable flow of life. You can choose happiness for yourself, starting today. One way to practice this is by intentionally scheduling joy into your daily routine. Just as you plan meetings, work, and responsibilities, plan moments of happiness. It could be reading a few pages of an inspiring book, practicing meditation, spending time with loved ones, or doing something creative that makes you feel alive. When you choose to create happiness deliberately, you send a message to yourself that your well-being matters. And over time, these moments accumulate into a happier, more fulfilling life. Most importantly, when you stop waiting and start creating, you discover that happiness is not a destination, but a daily practice. It is not something you find only at the end of the road. It is something you build with every step you take. By choosing to live joyfully now, regardless of imperfections, you free yourself from the endless chase and allow yourself to experience life in its fullness. Happiness becomes a creation, not a condition, and the more you practice this mindset, the more natural it becomes. Chapter 4. Choose positivity in every situation. Life is unpredictable, and no matter how much we plan, there will always be moments when things do not go the way we expect. Challenges, failures, disappointments, and sudden changes are a natural part of the human journey. Some days will lift you up with joy, while others may bring storms you never saw coming. In these moments, you cannot always control what happens, but you can always control how you choose to see and respond to it. This is where the power of positivity enters. Choosing positivity does not mean pretending that pain is not real or that problems do not exist. It means deciding not to let those problems steal your peace, break your spirit, or define your life. Positivity is not about ignoring reality. It is about approaching reality with courage, hope, and the belief that something good can still come out of even the hardest situations. Think of two people facing the exact same challenge, such as losing their job. One person might say, "This is the end, I will never recover, my life is ruined." The other might say, "This is difficult, but perhaps it is a chance to find something better or to grow in ways I never imagined." The external situation is the same, yet the inner choice makes the experiences completely different. The first person sinks into despair, while the second discovers strength and motivation. This difference shows that our happiness is not decided by circumstances, but by the way we choose to interpret them. When you choose positivity, you are not lying to yourself. You are giving yourself the strength to face challenges with resilience rather than surrendering to hopelessness. Positivity also has the power to protect your health and your relationships. A negative mindset drains your energy, increases stress, and clouds your judgment. It makes you more likely to snap at others, to isolate yourself, and to see problems where there may not be any. On the other hand, a positive mindset helps your body stay calmer, reduces stress, and gives you the mental clarity to make better decisions. When you are positive, you naturally become easier to be around, and people feel uplifted in your presence. This creates a cycle of good energy that not only benefits you, but also spreads to everyone around you. Of course, choosing positivity is not always easy, especially when life feels overwhelming. That is why it must be practiced like a daily discipline. When something goes wrong, instead of immediately complaining, try asking yourself, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Is there something I can still be grateful for in this moment?" These questions shift your focus from the pain to the possibility. They do not erase the challenge, but they open your mind to see beyond it. Even in darkness, positivity helps you search for light, and more often than not, you will find it. Another important aspect of positivity is acceptance. Many people waste energy fighting against what they cannot change. They replay the past, blame themselves endlessly, or resist reality with anger. But this only deepens their suffering. Choosing positivity means learning to accept what cannot be undone, and instead of drowning in regret, deciding to focus on what can still be built from this moment onward. Acceptance does not mean giving up. It means letting go of the fight against what is beyond your control so you can put your energy into what is still possible. That shift alone creates peace and allows happiness to remain alive even in hard times. Positivity also transforms the way you see failure. Most people fear failure, but a positive mindset views it as a teacher rather than an enemy. Every failure carries lessons that success cannot teach. Every mistake is proof that you tried, and every setback is an opportunity to rise stronger. When you adopt this perspective, failure no longer feels like the end. It becomes part of your path to growth. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this teaching me?" That simple change in thinking can turn what once felt like a defeat into a stepping stone toward greater wisdom and resilience. At its core, positivity is a choice you must make again and again, no matter the situation. It is not a one-time decision, but a daily practice of training your mind to see possibilities instead of problems, to notice blessings instead of burdens, and to focus on solutions instead of complaints. Every time you choose positivity, you are building a shield around your happiness, a shield that protects you from being completely shaken by life's storms. Over time, this habit becomes second nature, and you begin to realize that while you cannot control the waves of life, you can always learn to surf them with strength, courage, and hope. Chapter 5. Protect your energy from negativity. Your happiness is one of the most valuable treasures you possess, yet it is also fragile if you do not learn to protect it. Just as you would never leave your home unlocked for strangers to enter freely, you should not allow your mind and heart to remain unguarded against negativity. Happiness requires careful protection because the world is full of influences that can drain your energy, negative people, toxic environments, unhealthy habits, and even your own unexamined thoughts. Protecting your energy is not about being selfish. It is about practicing self-respect and understanding that your peace of mind is the foundation on which every other part of your life depends. Without it, you cannot think clearly, love fully, or grow consistently. One of the biggest threats to your happiness is the company you keep. People carry energy with them, and that energy influences you whether you notice it or not. If you constantly surround yourself with people who complain about everything, who gossip, criticize, or find fault in every situation, you will begin to absorb that negativity. Slowly, without even realizing it, you will start to think and feel the same way. You might find yourself complaining more, seeing problems instead of possibilities, or doubting your own worth. On the other hand, when you spend time with people who encourage you, support you, and celebrate your progress, you begin to rise to their level of positivity. Their energy uplifts you, fuels your motivation, and helps you believe in yourself. This is why protecting your energy often begins with being intentional about the people you allow into your closest circles. You cannot control everyone around you, but you can control how much influence they have on your life. Protecting your energy also means setting boundaries. Many people struggle with this because they fear disappointing others or being judged as unkind. But the truth is, saying yes to everyone often means saying no to your own well-being. Boundaries are not walls meant to keep people out. They are gates that protect the garden of your soul. If someone constantly drains you with negativity, you are allowed to limit the time you spend with them. If certain conversations always leave you feeling heavy, you are allowed to step away from them. Protecting your energy is not about rejecting people. It is about recognizing what feeds your spirit and what poisons it, and then making choices that prioritize your inner peace. It is not only people who can drain your energy. The things you consume daily also shape your emotional state. The news, social media, entertainment, and even the music you listen to have an impact on your mood and outlook. If you constantly feed your mind with fear, anger, and division, you will carry that heaviness with you throughout the day. If you spend hours scrolling through social media, comparing your life to others, you will slowly lose sight of your own blessings. Protecting your energy means being mindful of what you allow into your mental space. Just as you protect your body by choosing healthy food, you must protect your soul by choosing healthy information, uplifting content, and moments of silence that restore balance. Another form of negativity that must be guarded against is your own self-talk. Sometimes, the most toxic voice in your life is not coming from others. It is coming from inside your own head. If you constantly criticize yourself, call yourself unworthy, or focus only on your failures, you become your own source of unhappiness. Protecting your energy means learning to catch these destructive thoughts and replace them with kinder, truer ones. Instead of saying, "I am not good enough," you can say, "I am learning, growing, and making progress." Instead of saying, "I always fail," you can remind yourself, "Failure is a step on the path to success." This shift does not happen overnight, but the more you practice it, the more you will notice your happiness strengthening, because you are no longer attacking yourself from within. Protecting your energy also requires rest and renewal. Happiness fades quickly when your body is exhausted, your mind is overloaded, and your spirit is neglected. Many people push themselves endlessly, giving to work, family, and responsibilities, but they rarely pause to refill their own cup. You cannot pour water from an empty vessel, and you cannot live joyfully if your energy is constantly drained. Protecting your energy means giving yourself permission to rest, to spend time in silence, to do things that bring you peace, and to treat your well-being as a priority rather than an afterthought. Rest is not laziness. It is maintenance. It is how you keep your inner light burning. It is also important to remember that protecting your energy does not mean avoiding every challenge or difficulty. Life will bring problems, and sometimes you will need to face negativity directly. The key is to prevent it from taking root inside you. For example, if someone treats you unfairly, you cannot always stop them, but you can decide not to carry their negativity in your heart. If life becomes stressful, you may not be able to escape it completely, but you can choose small rituals that keep you grounded, such as prayer, journaling, or mindful breathing. Protecting your energy is less about avoiding the storm and more about learning how to remain calm and centered while it passes. Ultimately, protecting your energy is about valuing yourself enough to recognize that not everything deserves your attention, your emotions, or your time. Every moment of anger, every hour spent in toxic conversations, and every day wasted on comparisons is a day of happiness stolen. But every moment you choose peace over conflict, gratitude over complaint, and silence over chaos is a moment of happiness regained. When you protect your energy consistently, you build an invisible shield around your heart, and this shield allows your happiness to remain strong even in a world full of negativity. Chapter 6. Build daily rituals of joy. Happiness is not something that appears out of nowhere and disappears without reason. It is something that can be nurtured, protected, and strengthened through small but consistent actions. Just like physical health requires daily habits such as eating nourishing food and exercising regularly, emotional health also requires practices that feed the soul. This is why building daily rituals of joy is so important. These rituals are not about grand celebrations or expensive pleasures. They are about the small, intentional acts that create peace, comfort, and happiness in the rhythm of everyday life. When you wake up in the morning, the first few moments set the tone for your entire day. If the first thing you do is grab your phone, scroll through endless messages, or expose yourself to negative news, your mind immediately enters a state of chaos and comparison. But if you choose to begin your day with a ritual of joy, such as quiet reflection, stretching your body, offering gratitude for a new day, or simply breathing deeply and calmly, you give your mind a strong, positive foundation. This does not take hours. It can be done in minutes, but it makes a world of difference. The way you begin your day is often the way you carry your day. Daily rituals of joy are deeply personal. For some, it may be taking a morning walk in nature, feeling the fresh air, and observing the beauty around them. For others, it might be reading an inspiring passage, journaling their thoughts, or drinking tea slowly without rushing. Joyful rituals are not about what the world tells you is important. They are about what makes your heart feel alive and grounded. When you discover the activities that truly bring you peace, no matter how small, and you repeat them daily, you build a lifestyle where happiness is not accidental, but intentional. One of the most powerful rituals is practicing gratitude consistently. Writing down a few things you are thankful for each day shifts your focus from what is lacking to what is already present. Another ritual could be engaging in movement that energizes you, whether it's a workout, yoga, dancing, or simply stretching. These physical practices release stress and increase endorphins, which directly boost your mood. Even something as simple as listening to music that uplifts you can become a ritual of joy when you choose it deliberately instead of filling your ears with noise that does not serve you. Daily rituals also act as anchors during storms. Life will always bring stress, challenges, and unexpected events, but rituals provide stability. When your mind feels scattered, returning to your rituals gives you a sense of control and comfort. For example, if journaling is part of your daily routine, then on stressful days you have a safe place to release your thoughts. If meditation or prayer is part of your practice, then in difficult times you have a spiritual anchor that grounds you. These rituals remind you that even when life feels out of control, you still have tools to restore balance. Importantly, rituals of joy are not just for mornings or nights. They can be woven into the fabric of your entire day. You might pause at lunch to step outside for a few minutes of fresh air, or take a short break from work to stretch and breathe. You might have a ritual of calling a loved one regularly, sharing laughter, or spending quiet moments with family. Even something as simple as enjoying your favorite snack without distraction can be a ritual of happiness when you do it mindfully. The key is consistency. Small joys practiced every day create a strong foundation of happiness that grows over time. Some people avoid building rituals because they believe happiness should come naturally, or they fear it will feel forced. But the truth is that rituals are not about forcing joy. They are about creating space for it. Just as a plant needs regular sunlight and water to thrive, your soul needs regular nourishment to remain joyful. By repeating these practices daily, you make happiness a habit rather than a rare event. Over time, these small habits accumulate into something powerful, turning your life into a space where joy is not rare, but abundant. Another benefit of daily rituals is that they give you something to look forward to. Life can sometimes feel repetitive or overwhelming, but when you know that you have built-in moments of peace and joy, it breaks the monotony and keeps your spirit lifted. Whether it's reading at night, watching the sunset, sipping coffee in silence, or practicing deep breathing before sleep, these rituals become small promises you make to yourself, a reminder that your happiness matters and deserves attention every day. In the end, building daily rituals of joy is about taking responsibility for your emotional well-being. You cannot always control what happens in your day, but you can control how you design it. By creating these small, meaningful practices, you build a life where happiness is no longer something you search for. It becomes part of who you are. Your rituals become the steady rhythm of joy that carries you through both calm and stormy days, reminding you again and again that happiness is not far away. It is something you can create with your own hands, one ritual at a time. Chapter 7. Happiness is a gift you share. Happiness becomes most powerful when it is not only kept inside, but when it is shared with others. Too often, people treat happiness as a private treasure, something to hold on to tightly, as if giving it away will leave them with less. But happiness does not work like material possessions. It is not like money or objects that decrease the more you give. Happiness is like light. When you light another candle with your own flame, your light does not diminish, it grows stronger. In the same way, the more happiness you spread, the more it multiplies and returns to you in ways you cannot always measure. Think about the last time someone offered you a genuine smile, a word of encouragement, or a small act of kindness. It may have taken them only a moment, but it stayed with you, lifted your spirit, and perhaps even inspired you to pass that kindness on to someone else. This is the ripple effect of happiness. When you choose to share your joy, it does not stop with one person. It spreads outward, touching lives far beyond what you can see. One kind gesture can brighten an entire day, and one day of brightness can influence a lifetime. Sharing happiness does not always require big gestures. It does not mean you have to fix everyone's problems or give away everything you own. Often, the most powerful gifts of happiness are the simplest: listening when someone needs to be heard, offering a compliment when someone feels invisible, showing patience when someone is struggling, or giving your time to help in small but meaningful ways. These actions may seem ordinary, but to the person receiving them, they can feel extraordinary. Happiness shared in this way not only blesses others, it deepens your own sense of fulfillment and purpose. Another truth about happiness is that it thrives in community. We were not created to live isolated, self-centered lives. Humans are wired for connection, and our joy becomes richer when experienced together. Think about how laughter feels when shared with friends, or how victories feel sweeter when celebrated with loved ones. Happiness grows in relationships, and when you make the effort to spread it, you build bonds of trust, love, and unity. These connections create a network of support that sustains you through both good times and hard times, proving that happiness is not just about the self, it is about the collective. It is also important to recognize that sharing happiness is not only for the people who are closest to you. Sometimes the greatest impact comes from showing kindness to strangers. A small gesture to someone you may never meet again, a kind word to a cashier, holding the door open for someone in a hurry, offering encouragement to someone online. These things create ripples of positivity that travel far beyond your own life. You may never see the end of that ripple, but the energy you put into the world returns in ways you may not expect. Interestingly, when you share happiness with others, you strengthen your own. Many people believe that focusing on themselves alone will make them happier, but research and experience show otherwise. People who serve others, who volunteer, who give back to their communities, consistently report deeper satisfaction and peace. This is because happiness is not meant to be hoarded, it is meant to flow. The act of giving joy awakens a sense of meaning inside you that self-centered pursuits cannot provide. By being a source of happiness for others, you become a wellspring of happiness for yourself. Of course, sharing happiness does not mean ignoring your own needs or pretending to be happy when you are not. True happiness that uplifts others must come from a place of authenticity. When you care for yourself, build your own rituals of joy, and protect your energy, you create an overflow within your heart. That overflow naturally spills into the lives of others. Sharing happiness becomes effortless because it is no longer forced. It is the natural expression of a heart that is already full. One of the most beautiful truths about happiness is that even in pain, you can still share it. You may be going through struggles, yet by choosing to smile, encourage, and uplift others, you remind yourself of your own strength. Sometimes the act of giving happiness is the very thing that heals you. When you take your eyes off your own burdens for a moment and help carry the burdens of someone else, you often discover that your own load feels lighter. This is not only an act of kindness, it is also an act of self-renewal. In the end, happiness is both a decision you make for yourself and a gift you give to the world. By sharing happiness, you create a cycle that benefits everyone, including you. The more you spread joy, the more it multiplies, the more it returns, and the more it defines your life. Every day you have a choice: to walk through life with a closed heart or to open yourself to be a source of light for others. When you choose the second path, you not only transform the lives of those around you, you also ensure that your own happiness never runs dry. Chapter 8. Happiness is a lifelong practice, not a final destination. Happiness is often misunderstood. Many people grow up believing that it is a destination they will one day arrive at and remain in permanently, like reaching the top of a mountain and staying there forever. They imagine that once they find the right career, the right partner, the right amount of wealth, or the right set of circumstances, then their lives will be smooth, joyful, and complete without interruption. But the truth is far different. Happiness is not a permanent destination. It is a lifelong practice, a journey that requires constant attention, effort, and renewal. Just as you cannot eat one meal and expect to never feel hunger again, you cannot experience one joyful moment and expect it to sustain you forever. Happiness must be cultivated daily, moment by moment, through the choices you make and the perspective you carry. When we believe happiness is a destination, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Imagine a person who spends years working tirelessly, believing that once they reach a certain level of success, all of their problems will disappear and joy will finally arrive. The day comes, they achieve the goal, and yes, they may feel a surge of excitement and pride. But after a short time, that feeling fades, and they find themselves still restless, still searching. Why? Because happiness is not locked inside achievements. It is not stored in material possessions or status. These things may provide temporary bursts of pleasure, but they cannot create a permanent state of joy. Happiness must be woven into your daily life, not reserved for milestones that come only once in a while. Understanding happiness as a practice changes everything. A practice is something you commit to regularly, not just when it feels convenient. A practice requires patience, consistency, and effort. Think about how musicians practice their instruments or how athletes train their bodies. They do not achieve mastery in a single day. They show up again and again, even when it feels repetitive, even when progress is slow, even when motivation is low. The same is true with happiness. You must commit to practicing it daily through gratitude, kindness, mindfulness, and the choices you make, regardless of how perfect or imperfect your life looks. This transforms happiness from something you chase into something you create. One of the most important parts of practicing happiness is learning to live in the present moment. So many people rob themselves of joy by dwelling in the past or worrying about the future. The past cannot be changed, and the future is not guaranteed. Yet countless minds are stuck in both places, unable to appreciate the gift of now. Happiness is always rooted in the present moment. When you pause to truly experience what is in front of you, the sound of laughter, the taste of food, the warmth of the sun, the comfort of your home, you realize that joy is already available. Practicing happiness means training yourself to slow down, to notice, and to appreciate what is here instead of constantly longing for what is there. Another essential part of lifelong happiness practice is resilience. Life will inevitably bring storms, losses, and hardships. No one is exempt. If you believe happiness means living without pain, you will always feel like you are failing whenever difficulties arise. But if you understand that happiness is about how you respond to pain, you realize that challenges are not the enemy of joy. They are part of the soil where joy grows deeper. Resilience means that even when life hurts, you still find reasons to smile, to hope, and to believe that better days will come. It means that you do not allow sadness to completely extinguish your light, but instead you use the struggle to strengthen your ability to find peace again. Practicing resilience turns happiness from a fragile feeling into a powerful inner resource that cannot easily be destroyed. Happiness as a practice also means being intentional with your habits. Just as negative habits can drain you, positive habits can build you. Ask yourself, what do you do each day that adds to your joy, and what do you do that steals it? If your mornings begin with rushing, scrolling, and comparing, you are building habits that weaken happiness. If your days are filled with complaining or surrounding yourself with negativity, you are practicing unhappiness without realizing it. On the other hand, if you begin your mornings with gratitude, if you make time for reflection or prayer, if you fill your mind with uplifting content, if you treat people with kindness, you are practicing happiness. The more you practice these habits, the stronger happiness becomes until it feels natural, like the rhythm of your breathing. A lifelong practice of happiness also involves growth. Human beings are not meant to remain stagnant. We are meant to evolve. Many people feel stuck because they confuse comfort with happiness. They avoid challenges, refuse change, and stay in familiar routines because they believe safety equals joy. But true happiness often grows when we stretch ourselves, when we learn new skills, when we face fears, when we pursue goals that matter to us. Growth may feel uncomfortable, but it awakens a deep satisfaction that comfort never can. The practice of happiness, therefore, includes pushing yourself to grow, to become more patient, more courageous, more compassionate, and more resilient. Each step of growth adds layers of joy to your life because you are living in alignment with your potential rather than shrinking from it. Equally important is learning to let go. Carrying resentment, grudges, or regrets poisons the soul and keeps happiness out of reach. A lifelong practice of happiness means regularly examining your heart and releasing what no longer serves you. Forgiveness is a vital part of this practice, not because others always deserve it, but because you deserve the freedom that comes with letting go. When you forgive, you break the chains that tie you to pain, and you create space for joy to enter. Practicing happiness means practicing release again and again so that your heart remains light and open instead of heavy and bitter. Connection is another cornerstone of lifelong happiness. Joy multiplies when it is shared, and isolation often shrinks it. Practicing happiness means investing in relationships that nourish you and being a source of positivity for others. It means showing up for people, offering kindness, and allowing yourself to receive kindness in return. Even small connections, smiling at a stranger, showing appreciation, lending a hand, feed your spirit. In a world where many feel lonely, these small acts of connection become powerful rituals of happiness. When you consistently practice joy with others, you build a life that feels rich with meaning and love. Finally, practicing happiness requires humility. There will be days when you feel low, when gratitude feels distant, and when life feels too heavy to carry. On those days, remember that happiness is not about perfection. You do not need to feel joyful every second to live a happy life. Happiness is a practice precisely because it must be renewed. Some days you will practice it well, other days you will struggle, but the practice continues. Happiness grows when you are gentle with yourself, when you recognize that being human means experiencing a full range of emotions, and when you trust that joy will return if you continue to nurture it. When you embrace happiness as a lifelong practice, you release the pressure to arrive and instead focus on living. You stop waiting for the perfect life and begin creating joy in the imperfect life you already have. You stop chasing an illusion and start building a reality. You recognize that happiness is not found in the future, but in the present choices you make again and again. This shift frees you because you no longer see happiness as something outside of your reach. It becomes something within your control, something you can cultivate for the rest of your life. Chapter 9. Happiness comes from within, not from the world around you. One of the greatest illusions in life is the belief that happiness is something that the world owes us, something we will find in the approval of others, in the possessions we collect, or in the circumstances that surround us. People spend years chasing after this illusion, believing that once the world aligns perfectly, then happiness will finally settle in their hearts. They think, if I live in the right place, if I earn enough money, if I marry the right person, if people admire me, then I will be happy. But no matter how hard they chase, the happiness they find outside of themselves always fades, leaving them restless and searching for more. The truth is that real happiness does not come from the outside world. It comes from within. It begins in your mind, grows in your heart, and reflects in your actions. External things can enhance it, but they cannot create it. A person with millions of dollars can still feel empty inside, while someone with very little can walk through life with a smile, full of peace and gratitude. The difference lies not in what they have, but in how they see themselves and their lives. The world can only offer you temporary pleasures, but true happiness must be rooted deep within your soul, where no one and nothing can take it away. When your happiness depends entirely on external conditions, you live as a prisoner to things you cannot control. You become happy when people praise you and miserable when they criticize you. You feel joy when you achieve something and despair when you fail. You smile when circumstances are smooth and cry when life becomes hard. This roller coaster is exhausting because it places your peace in the hands of forces beyond your control. But when you learn to generate happiness from within, you reclaim your power. You realize that even if the world is chaotic, you can remain calm. Even if people disappoint you, you can remain centered. Even if life does not give you everything you want, you can still find contentment in what you already have. Creating happiness from within requires a change in focus. Most people look outward, constantly measuring their worth against others. They compare their careers, their homes, their appearances, and their lives to what they see around them. But comparison is a thief of joy. There will always be someone who seems to have more, and as long as your happiness is tied to comparison, you will never feel enough. Turning inward means choosing to measure your life by your own progress, your own values, and your own growth. It means asking yourself, am I better than I was yesterday? Am I living true to myself? Am I building habits that make me proud? These questions anchor you in self-growth rather than endless comparison. And from that anchor, happiness naturally rises. One of the most powerful tools for creating happiness within is self-acceptance. Too many people live in constant battle with themselves, rejecting their past mistakes, criticizing their imperfections, and punishing themselves for not being good enough. This inner war robs them of joy, because no matter what they achieve, they never feel satisfied. But when you practice self-acceptance, when you recognize that you are human, that mistakes are part of growth, and that your worth is not dependent on perfection, you create space for happiness to live inside you. Accepting yourself does not mean you stop improving. It means you stop destroying your own peace while you improve. You become your own ally instead of your own enemy, and this shift allows happiness to take root in your heart. Happiness from within also grows when you live in alignment with your values. Many people feel restless because they are living lives that do not reflect who they truly are. They chase money while ignoring their passion. They stay in relationships that suffocate them, or they live according to others' expectations rather than their own truth. This disconnect creates inner conflict, and no amount of external success can heal it. But when your actions, decisions, and lifestyle align with your core values, a natural harmony develops inside you. You feel at peace because you are living authentically. That authenticity is a powerful source of happiness, one that cannot be taken away, even if the world does not understand your choices. Another essential part of inner happiness is gratitude. The world often trains us to focus on what we lack, pushing us to believe that joy will only come when we acquire more. But gratitude flips this script. It teaches you to notice what you already have, to appreciate the small blessings that surround you every day. A grateful heart is a content heart, and contentment is the foundation of lasting happiness. When you can sit quietly and feel joy simply for being alive, for having breath in your lungs and strength in your body, then you have discovered a source of happiness that does not depend on the world's approval or possessions. Gratitude is like a well inside you. The more you draw from it, the more it overflows. Inner happiness also requires the ability to create meaning in your life. When you know why you are living, when you have a purpose that guides your actions, Happiness becomes a natural companion. Purpose gives your struggles meaning and your efforts direction. Without purpose, even comfort feels empty, but with purpose, even hardship can feel worthwhile. Many people wait for happiness to come before they pursue meaning, but the truth is the opposite. When you live with meaning, happiness grows inside you, regardless of circumstances. This is why people who serve others, who dedicate themselves to causes greater than themselves, often radiate a deep joy, even in the face of challenges. Their happiness is not shallow, it comes from the strength of living with purpose. Still, building happiness within yourself is not a one-time effort. It is a daily practice. Just as you cannot stay physically strong without regular exercise, you cannot stay emotionally strong without regularly nurturing your mind and heart. This means practicing habits like journaling your thoughts, meditating or praying to center yourself, and surrounding yourself with uplifting influences. It means learning to notice when your thoughts become negative and gently guiding them back toward hope and gratitude. It means reminding yourself each day that happiness is not something you are waiting for, it is something you are creating within. Over time, these practices strengthen your inner happiness until it becomes steady and reliable, no longer at the mercy of every storm. When you learn to generate happiness from within, you also become a source of strength for others. People around you will notice that your joy does not depend on constant approval or perfect circumstances. They will see that even in difficult times, you carry peace. This inspires them, showing them that they too can find happiness without waiting for the world to change. In this way, your inner happiness becomes not only a gift to yourself, but a light for others, guiding them to discover the same strength within themselves. Ultimately, happiness from within is freedom. It is the freedom to live without being chained to the opinions of others, without being enslaved by material possessions, and without being tossed around by every difficulty. It is the freedom to choose peace in the middle of chaos, to choose joy even when the world is uncertain, and to remain centered in who you are. When you understand this, you stop chasing happiness outside of yourself and begin nurturing it in the only place it truly exists, within your own mind and heart. As we reach the end of this journey together, it is time to pause and reflect on everything we have uncovered. We began with the truth that happiness is not something waiting for you in the distance. It is a decision you must make each day. We traveled through the power of the mind, the gift of gratitude, the importance of creating joy rather than waiting for it, the strength of choosing positivity, the necessity of protecting your energy, the rituals that anchor happiness, the beauty of sharing joy with others, the lifelong practice of nurturing happiness, the freedom of discovering happiness within, the peace of letting go, and the depth of simplicity. Each chapter has been a step, not on a path that ends with permanent happiness, but on a journey that continues for the rest of your life. For happiness is not a final destination you reach once and for all. It is a practice, a way of living, a daily choice. The central lesson of all these chapters is this: happiness is not found in the extraordinary, it is found in the ordinary moments of life when you choose to see them differently. It is found when you wake up and decide to be grateful for the day. It is found when you pause to take a deep breath instead of rushing into stress. It is found when you protect your peace from unnecessary negativity, when you forgive rather than hold on to resentment, when you let go of what no longer serves you, and when you embrace simplicity over clutter. Happiness is woven not through the grand events of life, but through the countless small decisions you make in the quiet moments of each day. So many people spend their entire lives waiting for life to be easier, waiting for success to arrive, waiting for the perfect relationship, waiting for the world to give them permission to smile. But the waiting never ends because life is never perfect. The truth is that if you cannot choose happiness now, with the imperfections you face today, you will not find it tomorrow either. The world will always present challenges, obstacles, and disappointments. Yet happiness is not the absence of struggle. It is the ability to find peace and joy in the middle of it. This is why happiness must be a decision, not a condition. You must decide that no matter what happens, you will not let your joy be stolen. Remember that happiness begins in the mind. Your thoughts are the foundation of your emotions, and the way you speak to yourself shapes your experience of life. If you constantly compare yourself, criticize yourself, and focus on what is missing, you will always feel empty. But if you train your mind to notice progress, to see blessings, and to appreciate even small victories, happiness becomes your natural state. It is not about ignoring problems. It is about refusing to let them dominate your focus. Gratitude is the shortcut to this joy. A grateful heart can find happiness even in hardship, because it knows how to see blessings where others see only burdens. Gratitude shifts your attention from what is lacking to what is present, from complaints to contentment. Practice it daily, and you will find that joy no longer feels far away. It is already in your hands. We also learned that you cannot wait for happiness. You must create it. Stop telling yourself, "I'll be happy when," and start asking, "How can I create happiness now?" A walk in nature, a smile shared with a stranger, a quiet moment of reflection, a good meal savored slowly. These small actions build a life rich with joy. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions and begin building happiness with the tools you already have. Positivity is another choice you must practice again and again. Life will bring storms, but you always have the power to decide whether those storms drown you or strengthen you. Positivity is not about ignoring reality, but about facing it with courage and hope. It is about choosing to see possibilities instead of problems, lessons instead of failures, blessings instead of curses. This mindset does not remove hardship, but it transforms how you experience it, allowing happiness to survive even in difficult times. To protect your happiness, you must also protect your energy. Not everyone and not everything deserves access to your heart. Surround yourself with people who uplift you rather than drain you, with content that inspires you rather than poisons you, with habits that strengthen you rather than weaken you. Happiness cannot grow in toxic soil, so guard your inner world carefully. Daily rituals of joy are the anchors that keep you steady. They remind you each morning and evening that happiness is something you build through consistent practice. Gratitude journaling, prayer, meditation, exercise, laughter with loved ones. These rituals are not luxuries. They are necessities for the soul. The more consistent you are, the stronger your happiness becomes, until it is no longer something you search for, but something you live in. And as happiness grows within you, remember that it is not meant to be hoarded. Joy multiplies when it is shared. A smile, a kind word, a helping hand. These are simple gifts that ripple outward, brightening lives beyond what you can see. Happiness is not only a personal decision, it is also a responsibility to the world. By choosing joy, you give others permission to do the same. Happiness is also a lifelong practice, not a one-time achievement. There will be days when it feels natural and days when it feels distant. Do not be discouraged on the hard days. Just as musicians must practice daily to stay skilled, you must practice happiness daily to keep it alive. Some days you will stumble, but what matters is that you return to the practice again and again. We also discovered the freedom of finding happiness within. The world can only give you temporary pleasures, but inner happiness is steady because it is not tied to possessions, status, or approval. When your happiness comes from within, no one can take it away from you. It becomes your anchor, your strength, your unshakable core. Letting go is another key. You cannot climb the mountain of life if you are carrying every stone of your past. Release regrets, forgive others, let go of expectations, and create space for peace. Every time you let go of something heavy, you make room for joy to enter. Happiness grows in hearts that are not weighed down. And finally, we embraced simplicity. The world tells you that more is better, but joy is found in less. A simple meal shared with love, a quiet evening of reflection, a life uncluttered by excess. These are the moments where happiness deepens. When you remove the noise, you discover that the essence of life is already enough. So as you leave this book behind and return to your daily life, carry with you the truth that happiness is not something to wait for. It is something you must choose. It is a practice, a mindset, a way of living. Do not look for it only in the future. Build it now, in the present. Do not depend on the world to hand it to you. Grow it from within. Do not chase it endlessly. Realize that it is already available in every breath, every smile, every act of gratitude. Happiness is a daily decision. Every morning when you open your eyes, you are given a choice. Will you dwell on what is missing, or will you give thanks for what is present? Will you allow negativity to drain you, or will you protect your energy? Will you cling to the past, or will you let go and move forward? Will you complicate your life with excess, or will you embrace simplicity? These choices may seem small, but together they shape your life. Your life will not always be easy. There will be hardships, losses, and moments of doubt. But if you commit to practicing happiness daily, if you nurture gratitude, choose positivity, protect your peace, and share joy with others, you will discover a strength inside you that nothing can shake. You will realize that happiness was never far away. It was always within your reach, waiting for you to choose it. So, make the decision today. Choose happiness, not once and for all, but again and again, each day, each moment. Push yourself to see the good, to build joy, to release what drains you, and to embrace what nourishes you. The world may remain unpredictable, but your choice remains constant. And with that choice, you create a life not only of happiness, but of meaning, peace, and love.